It never rang.
Didn't
Never
call
rang.
I
me.
don't have your number. Cindy was next.
Mine's on silent because it rings
Brett
off.
Fair.
It's on silent, yeah, it
Thanks,
is.
Mr. Stevie.
I would have answered, Brett.
Thanks, Lee.
You could have come over here and knocked on the window.
Put them around the corner.
Just saying.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome our visitors and teachers here tonight. And we'll turn it over to Mr. Severson, so thank yous and congratulations.
Just, how do you start? With the leadership team, the staff, it's been phenomenal. The work that they put in, the hard work, the dedication. You know, this is not an easy time for anybody, and they're really stepping up, and we're so proud of every one of them. That includes the school board. You guys have been there every step of the way with us, so we're very thankful that we've got the people we do. It's a very dedicated bunch, and I know we can't say enough, but thank you to all of you guys, the leadership team, the staff, custodians. We're talking bus drivers are going to be coming in here soon, and the school board. Just thank you to everybody. We really appreciate it.
Agenda items?
Open enrollment.
And what is ASU's virtual academy for $2,000?
Mrs. Bussey got that one.
That is blocking us into the virtual academy in the Valley City. Into what, I'm sorry? The virtual
Online.
learning
Yeah,
at the
for
Valley City.
K-6.
Yeah, and that'll go towards, if we have one person in it, that'll go towards that.
It's just to get,
And we have 8.
just to get set so that we could continue to work with them.
So we're gonna approve that bill before we discuss it, that's what we're gonna do in the agenda?
Just to pull it out if you want to.
Well, just a question, did we have it approved? And then I get that on for to
Yep.
update online learning plan.
So that's our, I mean, that'd be the recommendation
That's,
for Mr.
that's
Logan.
not the same as us. Online learning is at our teacher, but
Yeah.
the ASU was our,
Distance.
The
The people that chose to,
health and safety.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That would be what we teach the kids that aren't attending, that are going completely online. The one we're approving today is.
So in our plan, we
online.
designated it as ASU?
For elementary.
For elementary.
Okay.
And then the high school, they're going.
So was that in the plan originally?
That was not.
They were still in the
Yeah, they were.
So that's the one that was on beside the next one?
Yeah.
No, those are still. And it's countrywide semester, so the elementary
well, the requisition you put in was for 2,000.
That was just to give
Back
us-
to today.
to make us all have-
it'll go towards our expenses,
so that's just how I continued to do it, but I can change
It
it.
never came through, I mean, I didn't see where it went, so that's, I mean, we could always move it to building fund, that's not.
Just a question, should that come out of?
If we can do it at a building fund, that wouldn't be a bad idea to do it.
Whatever you guys wanna
If it's
do,
a-
but
If it's a building fund expense, we could move that, yes.
That would,
That should be a building fund.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Out of the building maintenance.
and I just got a question, funding, why, I mean, the URSA funds,
Yep, that's it.
or ESSER funds? No, we had to make our first report, if I understand this right,
Yep.
like on the 11th.
Lindsay put it in, yep, father.
So then, one person, I suppose it's you, that's us as the contact person?
Yes.
Okay. So, if I understand what I've got, that covered from May 18th to the June 30th. So did we claim anything in that period?
We did not.
And we can't
it
go
was
back?
from
and-
March 13th.
March till June.
Oh, that
So-
first one was filed.
So we didn't claim any for that, and we can't go back on that one?
No.
Okay. So everything we would assess is gonna go forward?
Yep,
And that's a 62?
64,
64 or 5,000.
Okay.
So then did they set up codes for you, DPI, or?
Well, I mean, they have codes, I haven't set anything up, because I haven't gotten any bills or don't know what.
yeah, we haven't really decided.
We haven't decided
We
where to
haven't
go.
earmarked any fund, any place. to
I guess
put
that's
it.
where my question.
Yep,
We didn't do
Yes.
any yet, we haven't addressed any,
No.
and we haven't earmarked it.
no, we haven't, no, because we were waiting to see, I mean, because we can use it for just about anything that has to do with it, so I mean, we could take it busing, we could take it
Right.
food service, anything that we want.
We just haven't done yet.
No,
We
we have
we
not.
have claimed 0 as of right now.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions on consent agenda? If not, do we need a motion to approve those?
Approve with changes for the RJ's bill, is that what you?
Yep.
I make a motion.
Motion
I'll
by
second.
Lee, second by. Roll call?
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Lori,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Approved. President's report. I dropped off one, Misty Anderson from Valley brought this by, wanted to get to all board presidents out to the board, so I gave you a copy of that, come from the North Dakota Medical Association, some guidance. I got some other copies here if you guys
I
want
have
to.
a copy.
The other thing is, starting next week, they're gonna have the School Board Association, I'm sure you maybe all got it on your email today, gonna start with some lunch and learn webinars. The first one's gonna be next Wednesday, it's about bringing employees back to work during COVID, so they've got 3 of them scheduled. So they're gonna try to get some lunch and learns for us coming
Is
ahead.
that a new one?
That's a new one. Yeah, 19th is the first
That's what we
one.
got to set that.
So I've got training that day in Sioux Falls that won't, I mean, I'll be in that at noon, so I won't be able to do any minutes.
There, I mean.
I know, but I still have to record the start and stop.
I mean, you can just have me email you,
Okay.
and then just list who was there, and,
Okay,
because I can sit and listen for a minute, but we don't, usually there's any minutes, because they,
Just who's attending.
Right.
yeah, so, we
Okay.
can do that, yeah.
That's all I got there. Career and Tech. They sent out what we talked about last month. We don't meet till tomorrow. Down there. Biggest thing that we're gonna talk about tomorrow is some, just what we're talking about here with our funds. Vocational has no avenue to recover any funds, so what Basler is looking at is to eventually ask the schools to help us out with that. Because the funding goes to the schools, and we're part of the school district. Vocational is, we're extension of the school, so.
Do you have any idea what dollar amount that could possibly even remotely be?
No.
Okay, 1,000.
I don't know what we're gonna try to get everything with our assessment, and if we run short, then we'll talk about more tomorrow. So that's the biggest thing we're looking
Yeah,
at tomorrow.
I had that one marked.
And we got the counseling thing, it's been all signed. We gotta decide if we're gonna accept that grant that we received to help out with one of our classrooms. We got a $3,000 grant, we gotta decide tomorrow if we're gonna accept that or not. So that's about the only thing we gotta address, major tomorrow. Is that a full thing? If there's any questions there. None? Activity director.
We've got the extracurricular, Smart Restart coming up, it's on our, for our recommendations. And then, yesterday, Mr. Wilson sat in on a Zoom meeting with the ADs. I was in the health meeting in Valley City, so he sat in and, they went through and talked about a lot of the things that we've got on our list, so. They're trying to put a spreadsheet together of what, so when we know, when we go to Edgewood, what's the expectations, if they're just gonna let parents in. It looked like a couple of the schools actually were gonna want to let parents at least look at applicants, and so we gotta make sure that we get that out to our parents before we travel.
Is this the time we can ask about football? Like, what's the plan on how fans or anything?
I sent an email to,
Roy.
to Coach Rorick asking him that once he's made aware of those things, if he could give those to us so that we could get those out to our parents and our fans that would be attending so that we could know. A couple other things during that AD meeting yesterday. Some of the two biggest things were after game waiting. What schools are gonna do as far as once the event is over, how long before we usher everybody out of the building? You know, because parents like to sit there and wait for their kids showering and stuff like that, that trying to get consistent on that and get that information out there known so that when visitors come, they'll know that, okay, as soon as it's over, we got 10 minutes or how long we got rather than just letting them stay there for as long as they're supposed to stay there. So, the other part too was posting our spectator guidelines on our school website so that, you know, if the communication isn't there, even for our fans, because we'll have some fans who don't know what our guidelines are in place, that we have that on our school website. Opposing teams could look at that really quick and go, okay, here are the things that BCN is doing. And we can do the same thing to other school sites if we don't remember what's going on. We're traveling to Carrington, what is Carrington? Transfer really quick, go in there and look at that. Assess what they're doing as far as that goes.
So I've had some people come to me for football. Can we bring up, you know, maybe mention them, like to open up their running trap for people to stand and watch the game, so not everybody's in the stand? You know, if they're looking for guidelines, you know, if that's something we can bring across.
I can email Mike.
I think that's been brought across, but they aren't allowing that.
I don't think they want any
They don't want
traffic
to
on that.
Right, I mean, did it before, but I mean, now it's a situation, you know, where to get fans there and stuff.
I'll email Mike.
You have anything else? 80? Oh, okay. Mrs. Ditz, anything for technology report?
Nope.
Live anybody? Okay. Mrs. Bussey, pre-K-6.
So hard, Brad. Get me, nothing new, I guess, from our questions.
Okay.
Or so much information I'm going to share one.
Mr. Wilson, 712.
I'll cover more of this, just a couple of quick things. We'll have 13 students who will be going online in grades 7 through 12. And then part of our professional development on Tuesday, Courtney Saylor will be conducting a virtual training session covering student or standards-based instruction for our teachers. And then everything else will cover.
Any questions of the principal?
Is there a cost, do you know the cost of those 13 students online?
39,000.
No,
this
yeah,
is a
but
different-
when I get into that, I'll. I have
Oh,
all
okay,
that
it's further on,
information.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
Anything superintendent report?
Nothing, the only other thing I got is just that, working with Bud, we usually do a bus driver training, and I'm gonna put it together and we're gonna use, because they're gonna have to be here, so instead of making them go online and do the training, if they're gonna come to our in-service on Monday, I'm gonna get this put together so we can use that in place of the fall training that they have to attend, so, done before, it's really nice for the bus drivers, because they're gonna be here anyway, and that's what these guys are doing, so.
Building and grounds, how's everything coming there, where are we at? We haven't had a meeting, but.
Yeah, they're done, the custodians got everything, the building ready to go, so anytime Monday, they're ready to rock, so.
Outside stuff that they talked about all done?
But I think so, I was really good about it.
One thing that hasn't been that seen is they're talking about moving it.
Yep, that container, I don't know if they're gonna go the whole year or not, I'm not.
Yeah. Talking about both.
That's all, yeah.
Yeah, they moved that shed so they could put it back.
Yeah.
That's-
Budget finance has nothing?
No, we haven't, because we got the tax, we'll have to do the tax hearing next month before the board meeting, so we'll have to, get together before then and go over. We're talking with the auditor to make sure we got the correct, at least proposal what we're gonna get for mill levy, and, or not a mill levy, the tax calculation, and we'll get that. I'm pretty sure we're gonna stay where we're at. No increase as far as mill levies, but, depending on the tax evaluation.
Policy, that'll be.
That'll be done here, we've got the sick leave banking.
Okay. Teacher contracts.
I have a couple of lane changes. One for Bryn to move to MS plus 10, and one for Thomas Eski to move to BS plus 8.
Do we need a motion or?
Motion.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Chad?
Yep.
Lori?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
Lee?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Okay, then the finance report, which we tabled,
Yeah.
we get that all straightened out.
Yep, it's good to go, I think. I mean, as far as like validation errors and everything, I got all those corrected, so. You
Same
guys
one we
all
looked at with
received
the
it,
corrections that
so.
needed to be made.
So I make a motion to approve the 1920 financial report.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Ooh.
Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Chad?
Yeah.
Lori?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
Lee?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Teacher funded sick leave bank proposal.
I am going to make a recommendation to table that because the proposal that was sent to legal after we finished last week was not the correct.
She didn't return the.
Didn't return the right, we don't have the right notes from her on that proposal.
She has the proposal.
But we don't have that information.
She just sent what she sent back from March.
Yeah, she said, this is what I recommend. She said.
But that was
she
on,
says-
but that was on a different
Yeah,
proposal.
but she said she looked at the one, I sent her the actual proposal we gave. her.
Yeah.
But there's
you guys
no
went
notes.
with. And she said she sees way too many concerns and she recommends we go back to this.
Well, that won't fly.
So, that's why we'll have to meet again, because that, yeah, she has the proposal, I sent that to her. This
But-
is what she sent back.
But it's written on our old one.
Yeah.
So she
And
just
said in
resent
the
it?
email, what was it she said in there?
I got it right here, Mr.
Yeah, she said,
Sorry, let's see. Attached to what I sent back in February with my comments and suggestions.
Right.
I feel strongly they should be operated by the district, not staff alone. The version I drafted is clearly and leaves less room for ambiguity. The version that they provided is too broad, in my opinion, isn't clear enough.
But that's, we can't, it's not gonna work.
well, that's what that's what her, that's what she sent back. She wasn't recommending that we even, I mean, apparently not to even look at that house, I don't know. Cause she said the one she drafted back in February was the one that she recommends.
And
Yeah,
we're nowhere.
we're nowhere again.
Nowhere, so you were making a motion to table it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, and
Okay, Michelle has a motion to table that.
I'll second.
Chad second. Any other discussion? If not, roll call to table.
Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Chad?
Yeah.
Lori?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
Lee?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Brett?
Yeah.
New business, updated online learning.
Yours first.
As long as it doesn't take too long.
There's not a lot of
Do you want to spotlight all the other,
Take your mask
Can I have
down.
one too?
That's one of the first steps of.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so the last time that we met, the high school wasn't quite sure what we were gonna do yet, because we were still looking at the Arizona State plan as well as part of the consortium with Valley City. But they have a week longer to figure out their stuff than we did, and then the last time that Mr. Severson and I spoke with Mr. Johnson, they didn't have anything for 9/12 that they were gonna do. So my backup plan was to go through the North Dakota Center of Distance Education. Our students and most of our families that have the high school kids are familiar with that. They have experience with that. So what we have here, what I wrote down for you guys, is as of today, we have 13 students. Okay, they're broken down. There's 1 7th grader, 3 8th graders, 2 9th graders, 3 sophomores, 3 juniors, and 1 senior. NDCDE does have a separate middle school curriculum and high school curriculum. So the 7th and 8th graders aren't trying to do the same stuff as the high schoolers. It's all separated as far as that. 7th graders will be required to take 5 courses per semester. 8th graders, 5 courses. Freshmen will be required to take 6 courses. Sophomores, 5. Juniors, 5. Seniors, 4. The cost of each class is $139 when we pay for it. If families were to do it on their own, it would cost like $179. But we're going to cover that cost. As a result, we're still getting that foundation aid. For 7th graders, we have the 5 courses per semester, so that's $695. 8th graders is $2,085. 9th graders, $1,668. 10th graders, $2,085. Same thing for the juniors, $2,085. 12th graders, $556 for the semester. Okay, for the year, to the right, you can see what it costs for those for the year if those students were to stay there. So the cost per semester for this would be $9,174. If it was for the whole year, it would be $18,348. In comparison to the ASU partnership, it's $1,500 per student enrolled. That $1,500 times 13 would be $19,500 per semester. For the full year, it would be $39,000. So there's a considerable cost difference between the two. Now, the other thing too is with NDCDE, each class is assigned a teacher in that field. So if they're taking an English class, that teacher that's assigned to it is an English teacher. Where with the Arizona State University one, that's not going to be the case. You know, they were struggling, they were originally trying to find, in high school, yeah. Trying to find content area teachers who would be willing to do that, and they're not able to do that. So the teacher that would get assigned to that might not necessarily be familiar with that content. So I question the actual ability of that person to be able to help the students that they're going to have legitimately with some questions as far as there. So that's where I'm proposing that we go with the NDCDE online. And I've spoken to a lot of the parents, and like I said, a lot of them are familiar with that. It's just for the 7th and 8th grade students, it's the first time that we're having any of them do online courses.
So in this, how does it get monitored? I mean, do you get something then? Did you find?
Yeah, we'll have to, and when I spoke to the parents, I let them know that, you know, a lot of the responsibility falls on them and their student. That they'll have to be put in as an exam administrator, because for the test or whatnot, a password has to be entered in. Normally that's me, or in the past, Mr. O'Brien, we would have those. The parent is going to have to get that, but I'm still keeping myself as a notification, so any correspondence that's going back and forth, I receive that. And then I will also keep touching base with them to see if they're falling further behind, just to make them aware that, you know, they need to keep working on this.
I guess that's my biggest concern is how engaged is the content, because that's, I mean, if you're not engaged or you got somebody working with them, they don't move along. I mean, that's just,
Yeah,
that's my
and-
biggest concern with that.
And when I've talked to the parents, I've tried to convey a worst case scenario to try and get them to come back into the buildings for those where it's not necessarily the health risk issue that they're concerned with. But for about half of them, it really is, comes down to the health aspect. But they understand that they're taking on more responsibility, that our classroom teachers have no responsibility in this whatsoever, you know, which is a big change from what we were doing in the spring. Our teachers were still doing that. For the students that are choosing the online option, they're acknowledging that they have that responsibility, that, you know, teachers aren't going to be checking in, you know, I'll be checking in, but I'm not there. I can't require those kids to come to the school building and do all that, you know, where I going. It's up to you. As the parent, you're really going to have to be checking in on them, because the students aren't going to have a teacher going, hey, this is due tomorrow, where are you at on it? But we can't force them to come here.
So they sign up semester at a time?
Yes, for these courses, it's a semester. It's a semester
So if they
commitment.
would do one semester and want to come back, they could
They can.
be
Yep.
behind, or?
It's not
The-
parallel.
It's not gonna be exact, you know, because we don't know how much our classroom teachers are gonna cover as opposed to that. You know, it's broken down into semesters 1 and 2, but for the most part, if they are staying on pace, it should be fairly close to where we're at here. Because it's all, and the other good thing too is all our North Dakota standards are already built into this. So it should be what our classroom teachers in those classes are teaching.
So why would we?
Well, to get that-
As one state?
As a consortium for the southeast.
Oh.
Yeah.
When Valley City and Northern Cass and Hope Cage started looking into it, we said, well, we'd be interested, because we're still searching for something. And then the last meeting they had, they were still struggling, trying to find anything for 7-12. So that's when Mr. Wilson said, you know, we've got this, we've already used it, let's pursue this. So, and we jumped on just because of the fact that if it was gonna be, you know, for the whole area, we went for what we did on that, so. But this,
Arizona State is an excellent option for elementary.
Yes.
Because they had a teacher look at the North Dakota state standards and it aligns. And it's, they say this is rigorous as we want it to be, as a teacher was in the classroom and stuff.
and that fit in right away. I mean, that wasn't, there was no question that how they were gonna do it. I mean, they've had that set, that, the K5, K6 has been pretty much set from the beginning. It was just they were trying to figure out how they were gonna monitor, how they were gonna do this at the fall, and that's where we kind of ran into, you know, kind of a discrepancy of what we were doing. So this seems to fit because it's gonna give us a little more, I think it's gonna give us a little bit more hands-on to it. You know, we'll be able to, Mr. Wilson will be able to monitor a little bit easier than you would have made us do it. And we won't have to hire, because that's what Josh was struggling with too, is hiring people to come monitor. Because they were asking, does anybody out there have teachers that would be willing to monitor? So, this fits out a little bit nicer to our program, so.
Well, Mrs. Bussey hit kind of what I was going, this going to be the rigor that we want for the high school side, and will it get us the data we need to keep going?
Yeah, it should, because, I mean, if it's our North Dakota State approved online curriculum, it better.
Sure.
Otherwise, there's a lot of issues that we would.
And they've got kids that graduate from the
Yeah.
program, you know, that start, and then, you know, they'll start as 7th graders or even more, and they'll go right through it, and they'll get a diploma through
Oh, yeah.
the centers and that. So, yeah, it ties in with freshman.
Are any of these three for my meeting tomorrow of the, it's 4. You're just CTE kids?
There was only one and he really wasn't wanting to, we were gonna try and convince him if he came to school to try and take classes down there, so.
So none, okay, I know that'll be a question we'll have tomorrow.
So JR, how often are you gonna monitor these kids? Only when you see correspondence coming from NBC?
No,
Okay.
because they'll be our kids, and I'll have kids here who are
Right.
taking elective classes, and they're all gonna be listed to each other. So I'll be, if I'm going to check one of our kids, in-building kids, I'll see everything. So the first thing that I look at is there's a pacing guide set to all of these, and it pops up 11 lessons behind, 2 lessons ahead or whatnot.
Okay.
And those ones that are behind, I always touch base with those going, hey, you're behind schedule, let's
And you'll
pick it up.
keep touching base with
Yes.
these 13
Yep.
students that choose to?
Yep.
Because that's actually important. I actually think you need to help the parents in this
They're still our
situation.
kids.
Right, exactly.
So, on that, yeah, they're not in our building, they're choosing this, but at the end of the day, I don't want them failing all these courses, because then we gotta figure out, okay, how do we make all this up now that they're there with that,
I
so.
think you need to help the parents, and that would help if you were the bad guy.
So there, you don't see any of the grades though, you just see their pacing plan?
No, I can look at every assignment that they do. I mean, because the deceiving thing that the kids in the past have been able to get away with is tell their parents, oh, I got a 95% in that class, but they're 26 lessons behind. You know, and it's like, it's not a true indicative. That's why going for, you know, eligibility-wise, it's very hard on these online courses, because I've seen kids be extremely far behind, but get caught up and then get it finished. So it's real hard to judge that. You have to judge the past behavior of that student taking online courses. Where this year, we're gonna have 7th graders, 8th graders,
Right.
9th graders taking those that have never taken them before. And so, I'm really gonna have to, and so will the counselor, be touching base with those kids, making sure that, you know, we can do everything we can. Again, there's only a certain amount that we can do, but hopefully, you know, if they really, really struggled that first semester, they come back into the building, and we're in a better situation, and they just decide to come back. And then it's not a worry for us at that point. But it's not anything that I'm looking forward to, because, again, we got some young kids trying to do something that takes a lot of self-discipline
yeah.
to do, so.
Thanks. So what do we, motion for
You
the
want to
online?
make a motion on which way to go then?
Yeah, is that what we're
Well,
looking?
we could, because this is, I guess, this is one portion of it. The other one would be the actual, the one we have to update. So yeah, this would be, they tie together, because we have to have that online learning plan approved.
Right.
You know, I think we had just a few changes, wasn't it?
Yeah, was that sent out to the board?
I don't know if we sent,
No.
I just sent a couple things out. I didn't send the whole plan or anything.
So that would probably be done.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Do you have a copy of it? You can see it.
I do.
Can you forward it? And then we can go through it and talk about it. I know the one thing that we said that would really be, the other things we're probably gonna be close, but we just need to decide, when we go into quarantine, when we have to be out of the building for 14 days, what are we gonna do with our classified staff? That's the one thing we have to decide. And then what happens if it goes back to the governor said we're going online for the year? You know, those are the things we're gonna have to discuss.
And we should do that tonight?
We can do that tonight.
Or we do, or we?
We can, because if we wanna post the plan, we're gonna have to have that in the plan. yes. I think there wasn't, was there many changes that we had? There wasn't a whole lot of things that were different than what we talked about when we did the original plan. We added classroom teachers as essential staff, so they could come in and out of the building if we
A lot
had
of our
to.
teachers are asking to be able to work from the building as we go to distance learning because all of their resources are here.
But last spring they weren't allowed in the building from the governor, right?
No, because what he said was only essential staff, and basically told us, these are the essential staff.
Right.
So the teachers kind of, we let them in once in a while, but,
Some schools didn't.
yeah,
It was, well, right away, I think our impression was nobody in the building
Yeah.
except us who moved the plant.
exactly.
And then as time went on, we heard other districts were allowing teachers in the building,
Yeah.
so it was chaotic.
But if we're forced into isolation, why would you have anybody in here that's in?
Are you talking in the
contract?
quarantine, or are you talking if we go to online learning?
So in the quarantine, they would have to teach from home for the
Yes,
kids.
Yeah.
for
Okay,
the- for 2 weeks, yes.
The online learning, if we shift to remote learning, teachers are wanting to be in the building, have access to their materials and supplies.
Okay.
Okay,
That
so-
was one of the biggest ones. I emailed it to all of you too, if the other side pulled it up on.
So if we switch to remote learning, will these 13 students stay with that?
Yep,
Yep,
They stay with that?
nothing
Okay.
changes for them.
okay, I think we should back up the bus a little bit, and I think we should talk about what Mr. Wilson said, the 2 plans, and don't you think?
I think so,
And,
yeah.
and make that motion, I mean,
We can
it's
piece it together.
pretty black and white to me, but
My recommendation for elementary is ASB, if
Yeah.
you can approve that at the same time. Hopefully.
Right, so the elementary's ASU, distance ed for the 7-12. That's what we're looking at, that's the
Yes.
motion, we're looking to
Yes.
approve that part right now.
do you want me to make that
To
motion?
approve North Dakota Center for Distance Education for 7 through 12.
And
And
ASU.
ASU for 6th grade and below.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, Michelle.
Can we have a little discussion on
Yep.
ASU first?
Yep.
So is there any other added cost? Something about online academy, does that have, is that ASU, is that something different?
They're calling it an online virtual academy.
Okay.
What our expenses go to is the program itself, plus Valley City is hiring that teacher, those teachers that are specifically connecting with those students. So we're splitting salary and benefits, so, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Severson, but you said, you know, they overshot the cost
Yeah.
depending on kids coming and going quarterly, you know. You have to commit to a semester, but the cost could fluctuate a little bit depending on how many staff they need, things like that. So we're paying for the benefit of having that staff to work directly with us online.
So it's the
No, we're only paying
ASU program,
1,500 a month.
it's a program from ASU, but being taught by a local,
Yeah,
Teacher.
local teachers. That all these schools are going in on.
right, all the schools in the Cheyenne Valley
Yeah,
Consortium.
yeah.
And are they gonna do one teacher as first grade, or would it be like first and second, third and fourth, depending on how many kids are there?
They have a recommendation of one teacher for so many students, that's why there's a deadline for those students. So it'll not necessarily, I would assume that depending on where the students are placed in online learning, they'll have a teacher work with the lower elementary and the upper elementary students.
Okay.
So, and then I will be the point of contact at Barnes County North. So that teacher, I will be in on the trainings with that teacher and our students and the parents. And then I will be contacted if they have grading questions, things like that, that pertain to these things.
And do you have a hard number yet? I know you got a deadline, so probably not a hard number, but,
Well, deadline is today,
okay.
and so it would be each student, we have some not respond, but in our email, we said if you don't respond, you will be put down for face-to-face time, or face-to-face.
All right, so 8 is the firm one right now?
Yep, and I talked to all of those families, actually, and they're pretty hard on it, so.
But 1,500 is not a solid number.
I would say that's where it's additional to, you don't know what the other costs are gonna be.
No, 1,500 per kid per semester is,
Yeah, but what about the teacher? You say we're gonna have to take on that.
He estimated that in the
it won't be
1,500.
any more.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it
where they
won't
went
be
the
more.
high end,
Yeah,
so. with
That's
the teacher,
included in
yeah,
that
that's
At the
included.
most, it's gonna be 1,500 per.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's what they wanted to, because John, in his topic, what he said was, we're gonna include all these, we're making assumptions, And we're ending up at 1,500 as the top of what it would cost each person that's involved.
Okay.
He said that would be the top.
Okay.
Any more questions, Mark?
Nope, I guess I'm the one, really? Yeah, maybe I do know.
Okay.
The next part that I handed out,
We
Oh,
need
No,
to-
wait, we have to finish.
Got a motion and a second, so we need a roll call.
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Lori,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Rob,
Yep.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, now what?
well, it would be the updates.
To the health and safety.
Well, this is for our blended learning and the remote work.
That's the one we got to listen to.
Yeah, but this has to be in there too.
What's the same copy we gave us last time?
For the most part, it's just,
So we're jumping over the extracurricular one, going to health.
No, he said he still wanted to talk
We're still
about
working
that.
on the online.
Online.
Okay.
and because to me, it's still part of our online learning plan. This needs to be a part of it. So this first part is our blended learning schedule for 7-12. Students would be split into two groups, in A and B, based off of their last name in the alphabet. Group A would attend schools on Monday and Tuesday, Group B would be Thursday, Friday, and then Group A and B would alternate attending school on Wednesdays. And if there wasn't school on a Monday or a Friday, whichever one missed, they would go to school Wednesday. They would utilize that Wednesday. Days where there isn't a Monday or Friday, then they would alternate. So one group would get 3 days 1 week, the other group would get 2, then they'd switch it where the group would get 3 days and then 2 days. By doing that, it ends up being pretty even as far as the number of days that students would be in school. For semester 1, Group A would have 40 days, Group B would have 39. Semester 2, Group A would have 46, Group B would have 47. So it would equal out if we were to start that way. Once, who knows when, if we have to go to it, then we would have to just tweak that schedule a little bit just to try and even
This
it
is
out.
just a plan if the governor makes it.
Yeah.
If he goes to yellow.
Yeah, but a lot of schools are already starting in this model, and if our classes were a little bit bigger, we would have to start in this model. That's why I felt we really needed to have this one, for the most part, put in there so that when we have to go to it, it's there and people are aware of it.
Mr. Wilson, real quick.
Yep.
So A through J, about the same
Yep.
number of students?
Yep, so how that breaks down is 59 and 58.
Okay.
And that's with the students who aren't going to be here, taken into consideration.
And this is, the coloring is in our safety plan when we went to green, yellow, red. The yellow would be the blended learning. That's what if Governor Burgum would say the state is now moved from green to yellow, we would be into this blended learning schedule because we can't put 6 feet distance between each kid in every classroom. So we have to go to a blended model. So actually, this is part of both the online learning and the safety, the health and safety.
And then the remote learning, if we had to go to, this is just an example of one, and I plan on meeting on Monday with the teacher so we can finalize how we actually want to do it. Because the way we did it in the spring, it was rushed. We did the best we could, but we can do better. And so having set times, because the one thing that will change is there will be required Zoom meeting attendance for the students. We just have to figure out, do we want to do it all day or do we want to break it into chunks? We just have to come to an agreement that we think will be best for our students and for our staff members if and when we have to go to that.
Because there was a lot of feedback about the lack of Zoom meetings or the lack of contact. I mean, and spring was so rushed, and I get it, so I'm glad that you're putting together a
But,
plan.
and they also gave us such leeway for how we could do attendance.
Right,
Through submitted
Oh, that's
work,
right.
through Zoom attendance, through email. there was just a wide variety of ways that we could count attendance. So now we're squarely going by attendance. Are they on that Zoom classroom session time? That's just like normal class. This year, that message will go out that, you know, last spring when we ended, we had a lot of kids that went and worked during the school day. You know, during the school day, you're responsible for school stuff. So trying to make that improve upon that from what we did in the spring. I thought we did a real good job, but I think we can do a lot better the next time around.
Encourage us to do that asynchronous online learning because of individual family schedules. So that's where that came from, but I think, like you said, Lori, the feedback from teachers and families are to have that, like, synchronous, you log on at this time, you have to do that, and
And that's all I have for.
So you want to look at least the top part for
Yep.
Kirby right now?
Yep.
We need to approve that if we have to go to those stages.
Yeah. Yep.
With just the top, you're gonna finalize the bottom?
We'll
Yeah.
finalize the
So we're looking just
bottom.
the yellow part of it?
Yep, just for the yellow part.
Okay.
so is that just
So-
for high school?
Well, yeah, because what's elementary doing?
Well, for like a lot of schools that are even starting, the elementary is staying the same. They're going every day, you know, because they can isolate those students a lot easier than you can at the high school level of keeping those students in the classrooms. Like I know in Jamestown, elementary is going every day with just stricter things, but the middle school and the high school are on hybrid schedules.
What's our
So
elementary
what's
doing?
our
So
elementary?
can we do that, or?
We could do that. I would have to utilize the teachers to make class sizes small, the title teachers to make class sizes smaller. Like our fifth grade class is at 20 kids face to face, so I'd probably split them up. And then we would have to change specials to be, so music would be done in the classroom, lunch would be done in the classroom. So they're spacing them out 6 feet apart, but then we would also have less exposure throughout the building.
If we go to yellow, so if we go to yellow, that's what's gonna happen.
If
So
we
our
go to
elementary
yellow.
kids are gonna come every single day.
Well, I mean,
I'm asking,
Because that's what we're looking to
Well,
approve under.
yeah, I'm just
do you
asking,
have a
because
different option?
we have
well,
this,
when we talked about it the other day, I have, you know, we talked about group A and B. I personally would need more time to look at it, so I didn't realize that's what we were doing when we were talking about this. That's my fault. I mean, we could put that in the plan. I just am not comfortable with doing it right now without having a deeper discussion with the board members and the team, because we haven't gotten to that point yet. Like, I literally have hybrid suggestions on my Google Doc, and that's all the further we've talked about.
And that was something you were gonna discuss with teachers as well, right?
I would like their input. I mean, they were in on that meeting the other day when we did the online learning plan changes. Like, they want Zooms, they want all that, but with the hybrid, I mean, my teachers have the understanding that they're working through the curriculum as we go groups at a slower pace, because they're gonna do it group A at one, group B with one. While my third grade teacher has 10 kids, she can probably space out her kids far enough to make it work. But I need a little bit more time to look at that before moving forward.
And right now, we're not there, so I mean, that's.
My thought process is in Plan B, and then figure out what to do online when they're quarantining, or, you know, like when a teacher has to quarantine or a group of people have to quarantine. I honestly don't think for our community there's going to be much of a Plan C. I honestly think it'll be Plan B with restrictions, and if it gets to that point, they're going to shift to remote learning. So I'm not sure we'll see much of it, but I do want to plan for it. I just am not there yet with the teachers on the elementary side.
I think that's fine, give her time.
I'm still a little bitter about your comment before.
Ooh, she holds a grudge.
So do we want to do anything with
So-
this or
I would-
review all of this then?
I think you can just leave the, you've got the blended learning for the 7-12, wait till Mrs. Bussey has her
Yep.
K-6 or pre-K-6 ready, and then approve that either, if we
Right,
have
because then you could look
to.
at this other part and you could bring it all back.
Yeah, but if we had, if we had to call a special
We
meeting, if
come
all
out
of a
and-
sudden they went to
Yep.
yellow,
Then
and
we
we
gotta
had
get
to,
it.
we could do that, but.
Sure.
Because that's what you're
Because
working
couldn't
on
we-
next
yeah,
week.
couldn't we ask if,
Yeah,
Right?
yep, that's where it's gonna.
the board's kind of all
Right.
in agreeance with this blended, aren't we, or?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, so we wouldn't have to make a motion on it, but, so he knows he doesn't have to try and make up another plan?
No, he's fine, I mean, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just gonna,
Hold it for the pre-K-6.
You know, and then we just wait till she comes
Right.
up with a plan?
Yep.
yeah, to approve the whole thing.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions on yours, JR, I guess
Yeah,
that's what,
yours looks good.
yes.
Yeah, you're off the hook.
And we'll need to, I mean, it'll need to be added to that document that's posted to our website
Yes.
for our stakeholders. So that's was my thought process, and,
Take the time you need to do it.
we'll get it figured out.
And if it
And if
actually
we have to
happened
get back before that to
September-
get it in the plan, we'll have to meet.
Yeah,
Have a special meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the 16th, I mean, I would think we're gonna have a pretty good idea by then what we're
Okay.
gonna do, so, yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Okay.
Are we gonna talk about, I emailed this.
Yep.
I would feel more comfortable if they had time to read through it.
Okay.
Is that okay? I mean.
Yeah, that's fine, because
Since we're not online.
I can't imagine that by the 19th of September, we're gonna be fully remote for the whole state.
I hope not, yeah.
So that would probably be the thing to do.
Yeah.
We just have to have some version of it
Yep,
approved before we can come.
yeah, we've got, I mean, we're still operating on last year's plan, basically, is what we would do. This would be the updated one, that if you, when you go through, we can approve this in September, the new one can go up on the website. The new one. Because like I said, I can't imagine that we're gonna be totally remote by September 19th. Works for me.
That's my prayer.
And we're not?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Extracurricular recreation.
Okay, we met as extracurricular committee. We decided athletes, coaches, and supervision of home events. Our locker room hallway will be restricted just to players, coaches, officials, and supervisors. So anything down past the candy machine or pop machines was gonna be shut down once both teams are there. We're also gonna close down this hallway, nobody in. Okay, so once they're in the hallway, masks, face coverings are optional. Anytime that individual, if one of our kids has to run to their locker, they need to wear their mask when they go do it. If they have a team, somebody from the other team has to come out, they need to wear their face coverings anytime they're outside of that hallway. Not required for coaches or players in the bench area. They're not required, but they can do them if they choose to. Optional for our table workers, unless we have to bunch everybody together, then we would require it, but we think we can space them out enough on the bench area where we can have them wear masks if they want or not, or they can make that choice. Again, East Hallway is going to be closed off to everyone. Our event workers, our ticket takers will have gloves, masks or face coverings, and/or face shields. We talked about putting plexiglass up, but we thought if we could find some face shields, they would just put on the shield as well as the mask, and they'd be double covered. We changed ticket prices to $5 for everyone, because it was 6 and 4, we're just going to go to $5. Hopefully people will see that and they bring $5 bills instead of $50 bills, $100 bills, $20 bills. And then we're letting all senior citizens in free of charge. We're not going to charge them at all. It used to be $1. Our attendance, we have a capacity of 1,480 in the gym. We can go, at this point, we can go 75% of it or 500 people. So we've said that we're going to go with max capacity 500 people. I can't imagine that we would ever run over 500 people, but we'll have to talk about that with the ticket takers, and if it gets close, we're going to have to, I don't know if we have to do a counter or whatever, but I can't imagine we'd have over 500 attendance at one year. Mask face coverage required when they enter the building. and then once they get to their seat, they can take it off. If they leave their seat to go to the bathroom, to go to the, get pop or candy, they need to wear it. And then we're gonna encourage social distancing for people that didn't come together. So if they came in a group, they could sit together in a group. If another group comes, we're gonna ask them to stay, try to social distance up to 6 feet. We're only selling packaged items, and that will be at the student council stand. That'll just be pop and any candy bars, those types of things that are already sealed. We're not gonna be selling popcorn and things like that unless we come up with a way that we can seal it, or we can, you know, that we can figure out a way that they can be prepackaged. Away contests require bus transportation. Athletes will sit in assigned seats, and it'll be the same every time they travel. Masks, face coverings are recommended on the bus, but not required, so if they walk from here to the bus, they have to have them on. Once they get on the bus, then they're recommended, but they don't have to wear them. And then any outside organization that plans to use our facilities has to present a proposal that outlines their plan in order to conduct that activity.
That would be good.
I'll be like archery when they got their
Okay.
state tournament coming up, and if they plan for January, yeah, they would need to get us a proposal that would have to come to the board and get approved in December, January. They do a state tournament.
So any of the club stuff?
Any club stuff, anything outside
Can
of
do
our building.
anything other than, but they gotta come with their whole.
They gotta
plan
come
for
with a
the-
proposal or a plan that gets approved before they can actually.
A safety plan, right?
Yes.
Like on how they're
Yep.
gonna,
Yep,
Yes.
how they're gonna monitor
Yep.
their students in there, how they're gonna ensure, you know, social distance, all of that stuff. Yeah.
And like, we were gonna write something up, like, at the beginning of every game, how you speak and say, you know, good sportsmanship,
Yep.
something we're gonna.
Yeah, we're gonna
Lay the
add
rules out there
what
in
our
that speech, whatever.
recommendation for the, so wearing masks
Yep.
when you get up at it, yet have something put together that we'll announce before every game.
And we can do that for the JV game,
Yep.
you know, every once in a while we can do it, you know, between sets or whatever too, so, yeah, we can do that. The only other one, like JR said, what about the leaving? Because we never addressed that. How long do we give?
15 minutes, and you're out.
And toward the end, we could just announce that you have, or at the end of the game, you have 15 minutes to leave, please wear your mask, social distance, and when 15 minutes is up,
I personally go less than that because CDC says 15 minutes and close contact is,
Yeah.
so if you go 10, you know, if they're all milling about out in the commons area, you know, then you're not worried about close contact stuff.
And during the AD meeting, what I had recommended is that each school official talk to their coaches and let them know that you need to have your players communicate to their parents that this is what's going on to cut off. If you're going home with your parents, then, you know, if you're gonna shower and need to hurry, your parents can, you know, wait out in their vehicle for you on that stuff. But for the coaches to communicate those expectations to their players, players communicate that back to their parents, so that we just don't have people sitting out there, that they know that, well, I'll just wait, I can wait out in my vehicle for them to come, they'll know all of that stuff.
But I think you still,
Yeah, that was it, start turning off the lights and people are gonna take the, cause I mean, that's what I did every time that I stayed after. Start turning off the lights, people magically start leaving.
but if you just tell them before,
But
like
you can turn them back on.
like you did with here's your rules, put your mask on, you know, at the end of the game, you'll have 10 minutes to leave the building, you can wait for your players in your vehicle out in the parking lot.
And again, that's something that we could also then announce as the
Right,
game
because
gets over. Please,
teenagers don't always talk to
please
their parents about
notice
this
that at 10 minutes, we'll be shutting lights off, we ask you to vacate the building,
Yep.
yada, yada,
Right.
whatever we come
Right.
up with.
Cause if the parents are out there, when the kids come out of the locker room, then they'll leave too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just trying to eliminate, you know, all the picture taking and all this stuff that takes place after the games or whatnot, that, you know, when we're done playing, we need to do what we need to do, and then we need to leave.
So this is the green plan, what if we go to yellow?
well, this doesn't change.
Didn't-
That doesn't change?
No.
well, yeah,
Okay,
because
every-
the capacity was,
Capacity
we're in
went up
the
to
yellow
250.
capacity
Yeah, we go to,
rating right now.
yeah, we go to 50% and then go 250.
So I'm gonna talk what the two staff members said when we sat in on that meeting. It's like, why are you going to all this trouble to protect the school? And then you're just gonna turn around at night and let everybody in. You realize we could close down the school because an infection took place. I mean, the spread could happen because of that. And it's like, I don't understand why we would allow that many people, allow up to 500 people. I know we're probably not gonna get there. With no restrictions, to me, just seems contrary to what we're trying to do in this building. We're working against it by allowing that.
But they do have restrictions,
But-
and they're restricted to those areas.
And we don't have the number of students there.
How many students partake of sports, your student population? Any idea?
It was 16, 17 on the volleyball team.
But
This is
in
a
part
lot
of
of risk to me. A
in
lot
part of the
risk.
guidelines, because the one thing that I had mentioned, that we have to really be concerning about, because we could take a real big hit on it, is our student section. That we're gonna have to space our students out, that they can't just be all piled up where they usually sit, right there in front of the floor during those games, that they're gonna have to be spaced out and accommodating for distance-wise as far as that goes, just because of what you were just saying. That if we allow our students to just huddle up and be all close, well, why are we allowing that, but we have these things going on in the school? So that is the one thing that we have to look at too, as well as spacing out our students and them understanding that it's not business as usual. And that, if they can't abide by this, they could end up losing sports. We could turn around and go, if we can't follow social distancing guidelines, all the safety precautions, we're just not gonna have sports. So that'll be their incentive to follow whatever we have in place.
So in our green plan, it says, examples of restriction are no field trips, no large group gatherings, assemblies, etc. How can we just have voted to do this and then go absolutely against what we just did?
I agree with Lori, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes no sense. It's a contradiction of
You're gonna have
terms.
more people at the sporting event than you would have at an assembly or a Lyceum.
But we're not gonna have the students there.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, you
Not
will.
like we would at a Lyceum. At a Lyceum, you're gonna have every student in the school there. At a sporting event, you're gonna have 25 students.
And what we're not allowing in volunteers.
Right, because all our students are here at that time. That's the way we looked at it. All our students are at the school during the day. That's why we don't want a bunch of people in and stuff. We're at a sporting event, not all your students are there, and it's 90% of the time family there with them, watching. That's the way I know you correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy, that's the way we looked at it. Well,
Right.
because the green plan is to protect all our students in our school, when all the students are here.
Actually, the school should be about protecting the students whenever they're here, which also includes when they're in the gymnasium.
Right, and that's why we come up with that.
For 500,
Something like that.
but possibility of 500 people, and I know there's not gonna be 500 people. To me, it's like we're putting the actual education risk of getting a child educated. We're actually putting education on the back burner and putting sports in the front and allowing that to dictate what could happen. It could close the school, which is what we're all aiming not to do. So, obviously I don't have kids,
But could close the school, how?
Because if there's 2 or more cases in 14 days.
Days, then you're gonna quarantine.
yeah. And that's
I don't want to have a sporting event make us quarantine,
That's a concern for me.
because we're bringing in all these other people into the building. And it's gonna be, then you're gonna have to, you gotta contact trace those 500 people.
No, I never thought of that. Ooh.
Well, you would have to contact.
Well, you gotta know where they're sitting and who's within proximity.
Yeah.
Yes. You wouldn't have to all
But it
500, but yes, you're
wouldn't-
gonna have to know that group and where
Thing
they're all
is, that
sitting.
it wouldn't be, I mean, unless it was a student, that wouldn't count for our shutting down. If a parent, or if a spectator had COVID and was here in our building, that doesn't count, I mean.
If a parent-
After 48 hours, no, not, but just a spectator.
No, I'm talking a parent would be there.
That student would have to quarantine.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
student would have to quarantine.
But not a whole group of
Yeah.
students.
And that
Unless
would
they're
not
in
be,
that-
unless
unless they're
that
in that
student
area.
tested positive, that's not an actual positive. It'd have to be 2 of our teachers, or staff members, or our kids to close the building.
Yeah, 2 of one.
If you came to the game and you had COVID, and
Right.
they tested you, they would contact trace
That area.
for all 48 hours.
Yep.
Within 48 hours of when you, I'm not sure if it's when you take the test or when they do that. It's 48 hours, they'll go back. So I suppose if you were at the game Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, you went and tested, and you were positive 5 days later, that they gave you your test results back, you'd have to go back to Tuesday, and then you'd have to remember who you
Who
were
was
in
all
contact
around.
with 48 hours before that. And that wouldn't just be people you were in the gym with, that would be everybody that you work with, everybody at your work, everybody. And that would not count, I mean, and the way I would see it, that would not be considered against the school, because there's no say you contracted that night. So that wouldn't be one of the 2 cases that would shut the school down for 14 days. And we wouldn't have to quarantine for,
You haven't done that.
no. It would have to be a student or that has it, or one of our staff members that was in contact with the kids in the building. Is the way I read it. So.
And after every event, the gym and school gets disinfected before the next day.
What's the plan on that? Using that big backpack thing they use on the
No, we
bus?
haven't got it
They
yet.
forgive them.
It doesn't live on surfaces, that's the recommendation, that it doesn't live on surfaces for more than 24 to 48 hours.
I personally feel it's a little reckless. So, I mean, you guys know which side I've landed on, so.
I'm just concerned with the green saying large assemblies. And
Yeah.
I mean, 500 looks like it's as usual, because we don't have 500 people here. I can't think of a time I've been to a game we've had 500 people.
We'd be lucky to hit the 250.
Right, so I mean, to me, it's business as usual for sports.
Okay.
Everybody's
Well, the
social
500
distancing
is-
and wears their mask, that's supposed to
The
take.
500 rule
But that's
come
only a
in
recommendation, right? Not a
because we
requirement.
didn't want our ticket
In the
No.
gym when you're social distance.
Yeah, you have to wear a mask
So
to
when
come
you're
into the
walking
building.
in or
Right, but
out,
once you get inside of the gym, as a spectator, you
When
can
you-
get rid of the
when you're
mask.
sitting down.
Yeah.
With your group, but then you're supposed to socially distance from others that aren't in your group.
So
They'll
how
have
would
to
you-
police them just like they do this kid.
Right?
We're not
What-
gonna police them, I mean,
I don't think you're gonna get massive people coming
No, because they're.
to games and stuff. You're gonna have your parents probably coming. And there ain't gonna be,
The family group.
you know, you're gonna have the family, the
Mhm.
players coming. But if you have a kid in school that, yeah, one of those games, parents probably gonna say, no. You can come home. You
so
can watch
what-
it online because they're gonna be,
Yeah, line.
What's the recommendation?
And JR said, after the first volleyball game, our student section ain't paying attention, he's gonna have a talk with them that next day, that you guys, you either can't come to the games no more, because you're not social distancing, or
But
we're not
they
having
don't.
That would be something that could come up. Instead of
Right.
canceling the season, you don't allow students.
And JR said that, I mean, he would all be that person, all talk to him.
And we're not gonna have a pep band, so that whole section of bleachers that normally is the pep band, we talked about having that as our student section, where they have to sit there, be spaced out, and they can't sit by each other. If they don't listen during the game, they're asked to leave and not asked to come back. So it's gonna be kind of a zero tolerance as far as the students and what they do.
That was the green recommendation, right, is what we followed on the, so we talked about doing orange, but then if we get switched to orange, we we can't move then now. I mean, we can, if we, in the green, we start in the green, it goes to orange, we have somewhere to go with our reasoning too.
So what about our athletes? See, you're playing LMM, or whatever they are now, but one of their kids is sick, or gets sick a day or two later, and now you got 14 people that played against them.
You have to determine, the contract tracer will determine whether they're within 6 feet for 15 minutes.
But I mean, that's the difference between everything I hear. Gyms aren't allowed to be open because, you know, expelling, you know, breathing too heavy and expelling the droplets and all that stuff.
I think they're open, as far as I know.
Well,
They haven't-
I know a lot of the treadmills are supposed to be shut down.
All you're talking about,
All the gyms are open.
They're spaced 6 feet apart.
But you're playing basketball or volleyball and you're right against the net.
Well, that's the consideration, and I believe at the last meeting, we voted to have sports.
Yeah.
No.
I know. What I'm getting at is by that vote, we've already understood that
we're gonna do it.
that's
We just
there.
need to
That
try to-
those-
I'm
risk
just
is
asking,
there.
what are we doing if we find this out? Are we isolating the team? Are we isolating the?
Find what?
If
Yes.
your opponent comes down with an illness,
And that is, then it
It-
goes to the CD, or goes to the state health department, they assign a contract tracer, they do everything. We have nothing to do with that. They have to figure.
so
out-
they didn't give you any recommendations about that stuff?
Nope, not as far as I know.
Yeah, and the only way we would get involved is if they contacted us
Yeah.
saying, this happened, we are coming to test this group or whatever. So if it's an opponent that comes down with it, the courtesy would be to tell the people that you played last and the people that you're playing in the future next, that this is what we have happening. So if you get contacted by the Department of Health, just know that it's a result of this, okay? That's all that we can do as far as that.
We don't do anything with the contact tracing or anything, that's all done by contact tracers through the state. And they determine whether they've been in contact for 15 minutes, and been within 6 feet of each other.
And as far as volleyball goes, they're not switching sides like they normally do. The one team will always stay on that side, our team will always stay on the one side.
Right.
There's gonna be no hand touching, no high fives, no nothing like that, so. That was the other thought as far as keeping everybody on their own side, so there's.
And just so, this plan, I mean, when we talked about it, we said we may have to change it after volleyball. Once we get into, you know, we may have to update it, meaning that we're gonna go from a non-contact sport that's fairly, you know, I mean, that you can distance a little bit to full contact, so then we're gonna have to do something different for when we get into basketball season.
Because we also generally get a higher attendance rate at the basketball games than we do at the volleyball games. So that would be a time that we would have to reevaluate how many people we allow into the building.
So whatever we do is just gonna be for
Just
fall.
for
This is,
volleyball.
yeah, we would just say, we're gonna use this for volleyball, and then we would reevaluate once we get through the volleyball season and basketball. Because that's, I think that's a whole different, yeah, things we've got to look at.
We didn't have anything on there that was out of the North Dakota Activities Association guidelines, did we?
No, no.
We were all
No, they
within that or
recommend-
under, or better than it.
Yeah, the 75%, actually, the green says you can have 75% of your capacity or 500 people. Well, we can, with that almost 1,500, we can have quite a bit more, but that's how we just went with the 500. Remember, volleyball ends in end of October, so basketball doesn't start till November, end of November. Okay.
This will be over by November.
Okay, so the only thing added to the plan then would be 10 minutes to depart after the event ends. Anything else that anybody wants to change before we decide
So
whether we
recap, we got 500 people,
Yep,
just the one concession stand open.
yep.
2 halls are closed. What are we doing with restrooms? All open, or are we gonna,
Well, they recommend that you clean them every 2 hours, so we can clean them before they get here, and then we can do a run through, maybe depending on how long they're here.
And wear masks because it's the same policy we have here.
Yeah, you have to wear masks once you leave,
Yeah,
once you
but
leave your seat.
the only thing I've had jotted down is we didn't address anything with restrooms.
Yep, and that's the recommendation, clean every 2 hours, so I mean, we could put that in there too.
That would be a clean sometime during the event.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you only have the 3 choices, the family room, the male and female.
Yeah. Unless we shuttered and just wouldn't
See,
do.
that would be the other option.
I'm
You
just
have to
wondering, we should
close
just have just the one
one
restroom,
bathroom.
one bathroom. Then you only have to clean one thing.
Or just use the family one?
Yeah.
No,
That's
you
low.
could maybe close
You could do that if you let no people coming in.
There you go.
We'll just set down a reminder to go before they come.
Or you could close all
Oh,
the
yeah,
bathrooms,
good
put a
one.
porta potty out front.
I gotta go between
And
every
you got no
four.
regulations.
I think that as long as you're willing to look at it after the first couple games and say, hey, the bathroom thing didn't work, or it's working fine, so we'll, just be willing and flexible to adjust on the fly.
I agree, I mean, I think everything we do is gonna be, the term they use, fluid. It's gonna be fluid because we can't, I mean, except,
There's
next
a
week.
trillion possibilities.
Yeah.
Right.
We could do what ifs all night long and decide, but, yeah.
But I mean, we've got to
agree, we
address
have to
cleaning the
look at it.
bathroom because we're gonna have to
Yep.
clean it once during the event.
At least once, yep.
So how is that, are we gonna have
So then what
janitors
he'd
here
have to
then?
do would be, he'd have to, I suppose he'd have to close off one and clean that one. And then close off the other one, clean that one, and close off the family one. And
So we're gonna have to have a janitor on that.
well, Dave's always,
There's always-
Yeah.
Dave's always.
I mean, that, that's the only thing that is in that plan.
So we can put that in there, the restrooms will be clean, minimum of every 2 hours.
And none of the tables will be open,
No,
because they're cleaning up the schools, so we don't want them to go open. There's no place to sit down there. Unless we have to clean all those after that.
After Center White leaves, soon someone
Yeah,
gets
you
up,
have to
they'll have
clean
to.
all the tables again. So it's a neat thing, put away.
Everything on the list. I don't have the sheets, I just trying to highlight all the things. No, why didn't I?
okay. Yeah, just locker room closed, rolled off, masks, face covering up until we get in there. Once they're in there, they can use uncovered face shield, face shield, 20 days long, optional for cable workers, and social distance. The cables will like masks and face covering face shield. $5 to 63, 75% of people. Anytime without the seat. Athletes have to sit in their assigned seats when we go on a away bus. Anytime we travel, they have to be assigned and they choose their coverings. And then the organizations putting a proposal together. And then 10 minutes after the event ends, people have to be out of here and restrooms will be cleaned minimum of every 2 hours.
How are you guys doing practices as far as, right now it's just volleyball inside, but as far as when you do go to basketball, do you guys have any ideas yet, or?
Haven't thought about that yet.
Okay.
I think that would be the coaches and get the recommendation. And high school activity is gonna have to have a set of rules, I'm sure, for that too.
Okay, just, I didn't,
So, one other question brought up to me, I mean, you had open gyms tonight, that's for students, but what are we doing for open gyms for outside people coming in?
That's, they're gonna put a plan together.
They're gonna have to put a plan.
Yeah, if they want to utilize the gym, they're gonna have to put a plan together, so we address the safety.
So all the open gyms should have some type of plan.
Anybody that wants to utilize the gym outside, we'll have.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Lori,
No?
Cindy,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Safety and health fund.
Okay, basically, really not a whole lot, I mean, we've got everything ready, like I said, I just put it on there, kind of just in case we would see a change in our colors. So we're sticking with where we're at, and then, once Les has a chance to look through that, we can bring that back in September. The only other thing that we haven't really talked much about, Lindsay gave me this, that when paid leave, how much employees can take. And this is put out by the Department of Labor, so I think what we'll do is we'll get copies of this and get it out at the staff meeting. What it talks about is when you can be gone and when you choose not to, or choose to be gone for other reasons. But, if you have the symptoms, you're seeking a diagnosis, you got 2 weeks off paid. If you're caring for someone, if your child care closes, anything of that nature, you get 2 weeks off at 2/3 of the rate of minimum wage. So that would mean they would be able to use their own sick leave for the third. We talked about that a little bit. Just if they wanted to get full pay, they could use a third of their sick leave to get each day paid for if they show up from work. And then also same thing with could be the additional 10 days if you if child care closes or something like that nature. So Lindsay and I will get that ready for the meeting and discuss that with the staff.
In service.
Yeah, because it's a Department of Labor thing, so it's not really something that we have control over.
So for both certified and classified staff?
Yes. Yep.
That's just for school.
No, it's for everybody.
No, I think it's any employees, yeah.
Through December.
End of the year.
Yep.
Okay,
The costume.
nothing else on that thing. Nothing else?
Nothing else.
Open enrollment, you said you had a few?
Yes. I have one from Griggs County kindergarten, one from Griggs County first grade, one from Jamestown kindergarten, one from Jamestown pre-K, and one from Valley City 8th grade.
The first two from Griggs County, are they same family?
They are.
Yes.
And the same ones with Jamestown, those K and pre-K are same family?
Yes.
And guardian mom lives in Wimbledon. Dad lives in Jamestown, but he is the main person of contact, so that's why his is linked to her.
You need a motion, or we can do them all as a group?
Can we do them as a group?
I think so.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve.
A second?
Roll call, Lindsay?
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Lori,
Yep.
Cindy,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Yes, approved. Anybody have any correspondence or any board discussion?
I've got a whole bunch of stuff to add to others, but I just thought of, sorry.
What's that?
Okay, so I did my Southeast Educational Council meeting on August 6th, and they are putting together an innovation fund for which they had $130,000 left over from the year because COVID allowed for some, they didn't disperse some. And so then they're gonna take and they put together a plan to give money back to the school district. So Barnes Planning I should get $3,000 from that. Okay. Lindsay said something in an email about needing someone to proctor. Has anybody?
Done.
answered?
Michelle did.
Okay, thank you.
I'll need more though, like every couple of months, to be
Okay.
honest. Like in September, I have 4 more.
Okay. He talked
Oh,
about
I'm out
ancillary.
then.
Okay. He talked about ancillary staff and if we, close down, what are we doing with kitchen staff and stuff? Did we address
We
that?
didn't do any of that.
Well,
Okay.
that'll to address that in the next board meeting.
Okay, and so what about our tabled policy? Are we going to have a meeting?
We'll have to.
What's
We're
gonna
gonna have
happen?
to.
We're gonna have to.
On our what?
On the
Oh.
policy.
The leave policy, sick leave.
Oh,
So-
she was muffled, I couldn't understand.
Muzzle?
Or muzzled. Really, Chad?
You said it too.
Different. Those are my ones, but we do need to put together that meeting and not like it.
Mhm.
So are you thinking a policy to get with the team, or you guys wanna get together by yourselves?
I think we have to figure out what we're gonna do first, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll have to talk to teachers afterwards.
We still need to do it.
Anything else? You're gonna have, you got your budget and finance before next meeting?
Yep.
But you'll get that
Yeah,
set up.
we'll get that, and we got it proceed. Got it, you want
Fair.
budget
Yes.
finance?
Yeah.
Lori.
Lori, you want budget finance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, I keep going like this.
Anything else we need? Not? 16th, our next meeting, but we have the tax hearing at 6 before. Moving all the information that we need.
We'll miss that one now.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't.
nothing else, we're adjourned.